Alrighty, well, welcome everybody to When Life Gives You Lemons podcast presented by Dayspring Bank. I'm here with my guys Val, Sam, and co-founders of NIYOU. Yep. I'll give you guys a little bit of backstory. So NIYOU is really the backbone of this entire deal with Dayspring Bank, and they've put together all of the content, all of the production, all of the contracts to help me and Morgan represent Dayspring Bank in a first-class way. So first off, thanks to you guys.
We're glad we can put it on.
Yeah,
it's been great.
Yeah, it has been. It has been
a lot of fun.
Let's tell the listeners. Obviously, NIYOU, I know a lot about it, but how did this company come to be? And when we're talking about obviously sports and business, this is it. You're in the sports business.
Yeah.
And so where did it all start for you guys, and how did it get off the ground?
Yeah, so we had an entrepreneurship class. Shout out Nathan Preheim. He taught it. He's a professor at Creighton University. We had 8 weeks to build a startup from concept to pitch in his class, and it was like the first time they had ever done that. So somehow like a group of 6 guys like were just focused in on the NIL market, and we're like, okay, cool, like that's what we'll do. We got a partnership with Raising Cane's in like less than 48 hours, and that was the craziest thing because like we had been toying about it for like a week, and then I found the contact because you know Sammy? Sammy was like, yeah, Sammy was
Sammy.
Shout out Sammy, honestly.
Man, if you want shout outs, bring Val on the pod.
Yeah, no, seriously. Yeah, no, literally. Shout out Sammy because he was looking at this thing called Career Shift, and like there were a bunch of like finance bros around him. And I was like, I don't know what this is, but he was like, I low-key was eavesdropping. And I was like, okay, let me see if I can use this to find the contact of the person at Raising Cane's. So like found it, reached out to them, laid a whole deck. The lady got back to me within like 10 minutes. Like literally I sent it, said a prayer, walked out to my car, and then like as soon as I got to my car, she got back to me. And then like the next morning, she was like, okay, like let's have a meeting. So we had a meeting at 10 a.m., figured the whole thing out. And then we had Baylor, Trey, Jason, and who else? I'm blanking. There was one more person from.
Was it Kaluma? Was it?
No, it wasn't Art. It was Baylor, Trey, Jason.
Women's was Kennedy,
Emma Ronzik at the time, Morgan Maly, and Rachel Saunders. But who was the fourth?
I feel bad for blanking.
Yeah, I feel bad for
Ryan.
blanking.
It wasn't Kalk.
It wasn't Kalk.
And then was it Ben?
No, it wasn't Ben. I don't even remember who it was. That's so bad of me.
I'm blanking.
I'm blanking like crazy too. Maybe it was. No, I think it was one more. Okay, well, sorry if you know, like you were.
If you were that,
if you were the one, I'm so sorry.
You're probably not listening to this podcast,
but yeah. Anyway, so we got that deal done. Had everyone it was a lot of Raising Cane's, like a lot of box combos. Yeah. And then we presented it in the class, did the pitch and won the competition. And we were like, okay, like let's see if we can make this an actual business. So I had started it, me and then our original co-founder, his name was Matt Mandolfo. Is Matt Mandolfo. He just isn't in the business anymore. And then a month later, we brought Sam on as our other co-founder. And at the time, he was our chief relationship officer. And you can kind of speak to your role and how it's evolved.
Yeah, so how we started the chief relationship officer out was just spearheading and focusing on expansion like right away. Because we had those initial athletes that we did the deal with, but we needed, at least at the time, we thought it would be a good idea just to like explode. And just growth when it comes to the athlete front. So we worked on that, got as many individuals involved as we could, from primarily basketball, men's and women's. But as it kind of evolved, we as well brought in different sports across campus, focusing mostly on Creighton. Since then, we've thankfully been able to get in some other schools as well, Nebraska, Omaha, and Lincoln as well. But yeah, it's kind of evolved. I've changed titles here and there. Right now I'm chief brand officer. But as I'm sure we'll get into later, Val and I kind of do a lot of things overlapping here. It's a good duo. So
yeah, no doubt. When it comes to, obviously like idea to actual revenue. You said this was the teacher's first time ever doing this project. Like he had never done this before.
Never done this before, but they wanted to test it out in that class. And sadly, they don't do it that way anymore. But it was just like, let's just see if we can actually produce some entrepreneurs. And yeah, somehow in 8 weeks we were able to do that.
Yeah. And Sam, were you in that same class, or did you?
I wasn't in that class. So how I got connected with Val. So through the Omaha network and being one connection away from everybody. Val and I had a lot of friends in high school together that knew each other. So like very loosely, I like knew the name and stuff like that. And being involved in the basketball program at my school, and Val being in his, kind of knew each other just distantly.
Yeah.
But then at the same time that they were in that class, starting out at NIYOU, I was in another class with Val. And it was funny because Val like kind of described it when we like sat down one day. He was like, I kind of been watching you and like how you like interact with people and like hear people and, like show respect and, all that type of stuff. Definitely was, tooting my horn, which was great to hear. But yeah, and at that time he was like, we're doing this thing, that thing being at NIYOU. And he's like, would you be interested? So then from that point, I, talked to my parents. I obviously prayed on it too. And it was like a no brainer for me. It's like, let's do this thing and let's try and make it big.
Yeah, that's awesome. How many athletes are you guys representing now, currently?
Okay, so if we include the fact that we can work with all of men's basketball, over 30, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So men's basketball, women's basketball, couple volleyball, 2 at UNO, 1 at Lincoln. So yeah.
One thing though that makes that question kind of difficult to answer is that we like can have touch points with like any of these athletes. So there's like one athlete, for example, that we're going to do a deal with here soon, down at Lincoln. We won't. She's not in that number at the moment, but when we bring that deal to the table, then she'll be put under our umbrella, if you will.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Absolutely. When it comes to working with all these different athletes and different companies, what's kind of been the thing you enjoy most about NIU, and then what are some of the challenges that somebody getting into the market trying to either do NIL representation or even athletes for themselves trying to brand themselves, what are some things that they could learn from your guys' experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I think getting into the challenges first, it's like being young and then trying to get opportunities. It was like really hard at first because even though we had like a couple big hitters to start, there was like a long drought, so like you represent these athletes and you're working hard trying to get them deals, and it seems like every door you knock at like is an opening or it shuts in your face.
Yeah.
So that was like one of the challenges at first, and then making sure that you're like managing each, you're not over promising and under delivering, but like under promising and over delivering. So that way no one feels like they're getting slighted or no one feels like they're not getting what, they expected from you. And that's been our biggest thing, is just making sure that we can like take care of everyone's brand and then give them the opportunities that they want and expect.
Yeah.
But it's not been easy. Sam, you want to speak to that a little bit too?
Yeah, I was going to say like Creighton and the Omaha area is receptive and supportive for the most part of like young entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs in general. But although that, is something that helps us, on the same front, it can hurt us, as Val was saying. Like sometimes that youth can be seen as it can be seen, not that that's the truth, but like as immaturity or like that we're not responsible enough or things like that. On the contrary, I think that we've definitely represented ourselves in a very mature way and responsible, like our slip-ups are few, things like that. So we have earned kind of more of a strong reputation and things like that. But especially off the start, it's easy to be looked down on like, oh, you're just a college kid. Like, oh, you're just a 20-year-old group of guys trying to, make this work. So
yeah, no doubt. You can see it from the outside of just how it's like, you think it's maybe pieced together as opposed to like, there's actually a lot of planning and a lot more structure than you can think. And so with that, like, I think of young entrepreneurship, the grittiness, the grind, the passion for it. And so what joy do you guys get on a day-to-day basis being a part of NIU?
I would say it's a lot. Like, my thing is thankfully we haven't made too many mistakes. And if we have, they've been small enough that, we can mitigate the problems and, solve them very quickly. But on the like daily, like I'm somebody, and Val is too, and kind of our whole team, like the progress and like the process is is almost as rewarding as like the finished product. And what I mean by that is like the day to day leading up to that like finish line is like what's good. Like if we're gonna say like a marathon, for example, like the training, it's grindy. Like you don't want to do it. You don't want to get out of bed. You don't want to like do those miles or whatever.
Yeah.
But like that is almost like more fun. And if not, it definitely is more rewarding, I think, than like, because you can't do that marathon if you didn't get up every day and do those miles. So same thing with like this work and same thing with these deals. It's like you need to get up every day. You need to send those emails, check in with those brands, stuff like that, because those bigger things won't come to the table if you didn't do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say it's like, like I'll piggyback on that. It's like the little hits of dopamine. Like whenever like you like reach out to a brand, like cold email, like for example, like we're partnered with Invisalign. Yeah. And like that was like one where I was like, okay, shot in the dark, right? But like when you get that email, it's like, okay, like great. Like now I have like momentum to keep going. And then you're like putting each stage of the deal together and it's like, okay, like every stage is another opportunity to see this thing through and like see the progress and the process, like Sam was saying. And I think another thing too, it's like, I love like being able to work with people and then like get to know them better and understand like what their goals and motivations are. Yeah. Especially like athletes. I think athletes are like, growing up around sports and like a lot of my friends are athletes. So like understanding like kind of what like you have to go through on the day to day. I might not experience it, but like I like learning about it and like understanding it. And I think it's really cool. And like we get to do a lot of fun things that I think otherwise we wouldn't have had the opportunity to do because of NIU. And I don't know. I find so much joy in it. So
yeah, that's amazing. I think it's awesome just from the standpoint of I could have looked up the statistics, but I'm sure I'm somewhere ballparking it. They say that 75% of statistics are made up on the fly. But I want to say, especially from an idea to a company that's not only making revenue but making profit is like less than 2%, to actual for an entrepreneur, less than 5%, let's say. And so the structure from your class, all those things, it makes me think of like, when were those moments that also maybe somebody else that wants to get in entrepreneurship could learn from that, like you wanted to quit, you wanted to cancel it and say, all right, let's wrap it up. It's been a good run. We've learned some good things from it, but it's not substantial to continue on the growth that we're having, whatever those things. When did you want to quit and what got you through it?
I have one very distinct moment, but Sam, do you have?
Go ahead. I want to hear it, and then I'll.
Okay, so July. So I'd gone to Africa for a month last summer, and came back, and we had a team meeting. I think it was literally the first week of July. Like we were doing all this planning or whatever the case is.
July 2024.
Yeah, right. And like it was a drought. Like that last year,
summer, yeah, slow.
Like crazy slow.
Yeah.
Any leads that we had were like dead in the water. Like even like with Dayspring, like we started the conversation with Dayspring in I think January, and it took until October to seal the deal. Yeah. Right. So like opportunities like that where it's like, okay, is this going to solidify? Like low-key kind of being a little impatient. And I don't think you know this, but I'm going to tell you this now. Like after that meeting where it just felt like we'd all kind of decided like, okay, like we're struggling right now, but we're going to push through with it, even though it's really hard.
Yeah.
I just remember like I was at Sunny's in Exarban and everyone had left and I like just started crying. Like I started bawling because I was literally sitting there praying like, God, like I trusted you in this. I know that like this is what you want me and the team to do. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why nothing is moving. Like earlier that year, we'd almost lost the company too, which is another.
That's a whole
nother story.
Some legality or something,
something like that. It was just.
It's a podcast episode for another.
Yeah, it's literally, that is in itself is a podcast episode.
Finding an attorney is coming up next.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, so like all that like was just weighing so heavy on my heart. And if it wasn't for my mom calling me and telling me that there was food at home, I probably would have crashed out. But no, it was just like the little thing of like, okay, like I trust, like God, I trust you. Like this is going to be, good. And we're going to get through this time. And shoot, shortly after that, a couple months after that, everything started falling into place. And shoot, we've had our best, 3 months. the past 3 months have been our best in the entire career. So
yeah, before we go to Sam, I want to probe on this a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you had that moment, obviously the faith being a huge piece. And I think that faith in everything, you know, you can apply it to my basketball career, NIU, life in general.
Yeah.
Without faith is can be at times rudderless, I would say.
Yeah.
And so outside of that, though, of having faith, what did you guys change? Like, what was the change at NIU outside of just the mindset of, hey, you know, we recognize we're struggling? Was there any day-to-day changes? Was there any hires? Was there any, you know, things that changed that then October comes, the next one's come, and now you're seeing the success that you guys are seeing?
Yeah, that's
Open
a great
to either
question.
one, by the way.
You know, honestly, we had made some substantial changes before that. Like, we got a new COO, Kylie Karski. Shout out to Kylie. Love Kylie.
Another shout out.
Another shout out. We changed our model, so it wasn't just like taking a percentage. We'd like kind of change it to where, you know, we get paid a certain amount and then we make sure our athletes get well compensated so that we're all like making a good amount for facilitating the opportunity. So it really wasn't like any drastic change at that point. It was literally just like you had to have the mentality to not give up when you really wanted, like, really wanted to drop the ball. So I think after that, though, it was just like continuing the hard work day in and day out, following up with the companies that we thought would like be fruitful, you know, looking out for new opportunities, understanding what our athletes wanted. I think even at that time, like, we had started to develop like the brand guide for our athletes, and it's essentially the brand guide is like a roadmap for what your brand could be throughout your partnership with us. So, you know, what opportunities you can get, what networking opportunities you want, community service opportunities, stuff like that, so that we know how to attack that when we go out. So stuff like that, like, but dude, it was just a lot of like being patient and trusting the process. I'm so serious.
Just don't quit. Don't ever quit.
Literally don't quit.
That was like the point that I was going to make. And like, there aren't necessarily moments where I kind of thought like this is wraps. I mean, if I really thought about it, maybe, but the biggest thing is like, even on those moments when they either like linger or pass quickly, like the key is like literally just not quitting. Because think about it, like every successful person in whatever field you're looking at, business, athletics, relationships, everything, like the only thing that is throughout all those is that they just haven't quit. Yeah. You know, the biggest businessmen, the biggest businesswoman, like the best athletes, like they just never have quit through, you know, if we want to talk about the athletics, it's like through minor setbacks of injuries, like just never quitting, you know, like the best athletes you can think of, like one that I have always looked up to in the translation of their mentality into business is always Kobe Bryant, because he just had that Mamba mentality of never quitting, no matter what it was, day in and day out. He was showing up before people, he was staying later than people, and he was doing, you know, what other people wouldn't. And because of that, he like reaped the benefits that others didn't, because he just was doing what others wouldn't. So,
yeah, I think that like something I would take from this and just like that I try to apply in my own life is the only separator between who you are and who you want to become is an increased commitment and time, right? Like if you want to be if I wanted to be a better basketball player, right, which I did when I was in high school, the only thing keeping me from that was just that increased commitment, and even sometimes just the continued commitment. Like you don't even need to change how committed you are sometimes, but it's just the time that it's going to take. And, you know, funny enough, I was hitting some golf balls earlier this afternoon, and it's like the only thing keeping me from being better at golf is time.
Right.
It's time, right? And you got to give that time.
Different like time thing, and interestingly enough, it's like investing's like that too. It's like sometimes you don't need to change your investment strategy. It's just compound time year over year over year over year.
Yeah,
like
it's a great point.
One of the most famous investors, shout out Omaha, Warren Buffett. Like
another shout out.
He didn't, you know, when a certain company's, you know, stock price went down, he wasn't like, let's sell, let's try and, you know, get what we can. He was like, no, like, you know, I know this industry, I know this company, I know the, you know, whatever team. Yeah. And I'm just going to like have faith in them. And obviously year after year after year. And now look where he is today, you know?
Yeah.
No doubt.
I'll piggyback on that too. It's like I came back from Kentucky, and I was picked up by one of my best friends, and we were talking about life and all this stuff. And one of the things he said to me that hit me was patience brings character. And a lot of times, like, we go through all these things, we wonder why these things aren't happening, but we don't take the opportunity to like learn throughout that process of being patient. Patience builds so much character, because when you get to that point of success or you achieve whatever you wanted to accomplish, you have the character to be humble and be grateful for what you had to go through in order to receive it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like, I think too, it's just like a matter of like, okay, sometimes some things that, you know, need to be taken out of you it only comes with time. Like if I was arrogant and I wasn't intentional, and I got everything that, you know, we had worked so hard for, I would have like been like, oh yeah, like it was me and high and mighty and this, that, and the third. Well, that's not the case at all. It took a lot of effort, you know, a lot of teamwork, a lot of patience, a lot of trust in the team, to keep going. So I think that's like another big thing, patience building character.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you.
For sure. All right, here we go. Go back.
Well, like you've been through several moments in your career where I can only imagine, like, one, like there's transition from, you know, Utah to Creighton, or just other moments like you being a full-time dad. Like how do you keep your I guess motivation or just like the patience in those moments where it's like, okay, like this is a lot, you know? Because I couldn't imagine being a basketball player at one of the best teams in the country, a full-time dad, husband, you know, and doing all these NIL deals, being an entrepreneur. Like, how do you manage all that?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking. It at times can definitely feel like a lot. And I think that I've realized that the word priority is singular. Mm-hmm. Like we say we have our priorities, but in life you can only be one place at a time. And so, like for example, right now, right here, the only thing I can be doing is this podcast. Right? I can't do anything on the basketball court. I can't do anything at home right now. And so the biggest thing for me, especially becoming a father, which is one of the biggest changes in my basketball career, was realizing wherever I was, I needed to be fully present there. Mm-hmm. And so when I was at the facility or the arena, trying to be 100% locked in on what I needed to do for the team to be in the best situation possible come game day. And then when I went home, it was making sure that I had all of my schoolwork, all of my film study, mm-hmm. all of the preparation for the games or other outside things finished as much as I could, mm-hmm. realistically, so that I could then be dad and husband to Peyton and Tommy. And so a lot of that came down to just trying to limit the factor of, like, in today's society with social media, with everything, with our phones, like, it's hard for people to even watch a game and not be on their phone at the same time. Yeah. Like, I think on average you're looking at like 3 screens at a time, which is crazy to think about. And so, in a way, just trying to limit that down to one thing, like what am I doing right now, and I'm gonna do that the best that I can. And then I think you see the impact that has time over time. Yeah. But at the same time, like, I always tried to gain motivation from within, but then mm-hmm. also other sources of, whether it was the joy that I saw Peyton and my family have, after a good game, or my friends texting me about how fun it was watching the game or coming to the game. Like, in a way, you selfishly have to have a motivation within yourself that you're finding joy from it. But I think when you can share in that joy, the motivation grows, and you can lean on it when you yourself might not be feeling the best. And so those are some of the things that I've probably tried, and it's worked so far.
Yeah, I think that priority piece is like huge, because especially like in a world where we're so distracted all the time, it's hard to like kind of keep our priorities in line, I think. And I think a lot of people like lose sight of their priorities very easily because of everything happening around us all at once. Yeah. I think, like, I don't know, I have a lot of respect for that, and that's something that I need to get better at,
Yeah, I mean, I do too. I'm not perfect at it, but it's been something that's helped. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I want to wrap this up by talking about the deal we've had with Dayspring. Yeah, and all of the pieces about it. It's been, I'd say, probably the most fun I've had in an NIL deal, just from the different ideas and the creation of this content that we've been able to do, and the people I've gotten to meet and the connections I've made. Mm-hmm. Because you mentioned, not only is there NIL and branding and compensation, but there's networking. And so when it comes to this deal, you mentioned earlier a little bit that it started maybe in January of 2024, didn't really come about till October, all the pieces. walk us through that and tell us about just the whole experience that you guys have had while working with Dayspring.
Val can start. Val, you start.
Okay. Oh, okay.
You start.
Yeah.
I'll talk some of the
Sam was about to be like, Val can start.
Val got
I'm going
it.
to say no.
Yeah, no, seriously.
Let's hear it.
Honestly, it was the coolest thing ever. It was like, I don't even know what we had posted, but it was Derek reaching out to Nathan, our professor, and being like, who are these guys? I want to get in touch with them. And then, you know, we started the conversation from there, and I was like, okay, like, this is cool. Like, they want to like get into NIL and all that stuff and invest in young entrepreneurs. Met with Derek. Like, Derek's a cool guy. And, you know, has been, actually has become a really good friend over the past year. But, you know, in that process, you know, we were thinking through some ideas. It was a really long time of just ideation and like, what are we going to do? Because honestly, at first I was like, okay, we're going to get this deal and like, we're just going to, you know, get it done. I didn't realize at the scale of which it would be early on.
Yeah.
So then like, I don't know, maybe like a couple months go by and it's kind of like, it was, yeah.
There was a lot of ideation, like Val said. There was kind of a lot of back and forth, and deciding on like, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? Obviously, part of it was who are we going to do it with? Obviously, we landed with you and Morgan, which has been great. But then it also came down to like, specifically, okay, we're doing this. How are we going to do it? When are we going to do it? Like what? Like all the intricacies within each part of this deal has gone to plan, but it's due to the fact that like we set the plan up strong enough, thankfully, that it has been able to go through like pretty seamlessly. But like there was a time where we sat down obviously with you and Morgan and the team at Dayspring, and it was just kind of, you know, let's do this. Is there anything else we want to do? Like, and that was one thing. Huge thanks to Dayspring is like, what are more things we can do? Like we're gonna have 1, 2, 3, let's say, okay, what could be 4, 5, 6? Like what are these little, you know, part A, part B, part C things that we can make this deal even go bigger and better than we could think of? So
Yeah.
the creative though has been a lot of fun. It kicked off in October with a physical lemonade stand, which was a lot of fun.
We'll post a photo of that on the pod.
Put it on there. But the process over the like finished product, that's a great example of like needing to fall in love with the process. Because so little backstory, like Val and my text thread is probably the like largest text thread on my phone, like gigabytes of like messages and everything.
Yeah.
Just because it's back and forth. And like it's almost like a continuous conversation, which is awesome. And I'm thankful, like it is clear to Val, but you know, on the podcast here, it's like I'm so thankful to have a team member as solid as him. And I am sorry for everybody else that doesn't have like a strong duo and team as like ours and Val is. But with that like lemonade stand, it was like, okay, and Val's a dreamer. Val is a dreamer. Steven, you probably know that some, but for those that don't know Val,
A visionary at times.
Yeah.
Visionary,
dreamer.
more than a dreamer.
Overly.
which is good. Obviously, you want to have the big picture and like you want to think bigger. Like don't set limitations on yourself. But there are some times where I have to come to Val and I'm like, hey man, that's a little too big. Or like, hey man, let's be a little more realistic here. So like,
We're renting out CHI.
No, legit.
but with the lemonade stand, it was great. Worked with a couple people that helped us put it together, and you know, morning of, it was like, oh, we need to go get a couple random things, but you know, it all worked out, and that was a great event. I don't know, how was that experience for you? Starting it off with that, I mean, obviously the podcasts have been fun. I've enjoyed watching them and listening and stuff like that, but like, how was the start, and then you know, ever since?
Yeah, I think honestly with any NIL deal I've been a part of, like that initial thing, I think really sets the tone for the whole deal, and the rest of the promotion. I think you can just do a lot of things with whatever content or whatever thing you started with, and the lemonade stand and the way that we went about it and incorporated the business school, and we're there at Creighton on campus and got to ask different students and teachers their life story about you know, when life maybe gave them opportunity that they thought wasn't as good, or it was sour like a lemon, and they turned it into lemonade, this big thing. And so I really enjoyed that day. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was interactive and it was creative, you know, which is something that not a lot of businesses do and get to be a part of. So it was really cool.
Yeah, I think that's where we like to shine too, is like creating experiences that are like a little outside of the box, because you know, NIL deals are kind of, a lot of them are the same. You know what I mean? Especially like in this day and age, you're doing something similar and you're posting on social media, whatever the case is, and it's cool. But I think like the more interactive we can make it, the more engaging it's going to be for the person on the other side that's looking at it. And then in return, it's going to bring that attention to your business, which is where we really want to be able to shine. So
no doubt. I mean, before we wrap it up, are there any other last comments or things that you guys got that you want to share with our audience?
Shout out Dayspring. And shout out Derek.
Another shout out.
No, okay, yeah, another shout out.
Counter. Put that in the bottom.
Shout out Peyton. Shout out Tommy. Yep. We're going to probably have the opening clip just be all the shout outs we gave, so I got to make sure.
I'll make sure that is the case. I think it's been a wonderful experience, and we look forward to continuing the partnership. Thank you for just being willing and trusting us with this partnership. And,
big time.
You know, I think it's been a fun experience with you and Morgan, just doing all the stuff related to this. And we're excited to just kind of keep building and keep moving and grooving. For any business that sees this, call me or Sam or Steven. And let's see what we can make happen.
DMs are open. If you want to work with NIU, hit me up if you got questions. Sam, you got anything?
Yeah, I just, like Val said, want to thank you and Morgan. Obviously, you guys trusted us not only with your time, but like your brand as well. Want to thank Dayspring. It's been a great opportunity to work with them. They obviously put a lot of trust in us to see this thing all the way through. It's gone well, and looking to, continue that relationship with them. And other than that, like, shout out my parents, put that shout out in there. But
shout out Sam's parents.
But NIU, happy to talk about it. And Val said, any businesses out there, hit us up.
Yes, sir. I'll wrap it up with, obviously, shout out Derek. Been awesome working with you and learning from you, and just the way that you conduct Dayspring Bank is second to none. And shout out you guys, all the work and effort you guys do. And I know it's not easy coordinating schedules with athletes and businesses and all of that. And so you guys do a great job. And like they said, if you are listening to this podcast, if you see this small little clip on social media and you want to partner with Creighton athletes, UNO athletes, or Lincoln athletes, hit up NIU, and you're not going to regret the decision.
Right on. Sweet.
Boom.
Have a great day.